Imagine you are 23 years old, crammed into the cockpit of a Spitfire somewhere over occupied France, when your aircraft takes a hit and the controls go slack. As you bail out into the freezing air above enemy territory, one thought burns through the fear. Where in God's name am I? This was the daily reality for tens of thousands of Allied airmen in World War II, and the terrifying scenario that drove one of the most ingenious, overlooked survival tools of the entire war, the Silk escape map, folded into a scarf and pressed against a pilot's neck, stitched with far more information than any enemy guard would ever suspect. The story begins inside MI9, a clandestine British intelligence directorate founded in 1939, with one focused mission: to help Allied servicemen escape and evade capture behind enemy lines. Its most unconventional officer, Christopher Clayton Hutton, a former journalist and magician's assistant, understood something military planners had missed entirely. A downed pilot might survive the parachute and avoid the first German sweep, but without an accurate, durable and silent map, he was simply a man wandering blind through hostile countryside, with no way to find an escape route or a friendly border. Paper maps were useless. They disintegrated in rain, crinkled audibly when unfolded, and turned to pulp in a desperate river crossing. Hutton needed something tougher, quieter, and light enough to vanish into a uniform without a trace. He found his answer in silk. Silk could be soaked in a river, wrung out like a cloth, and read perfectly moments later. It could be folded and refolded thousands of times without cracking along the creases, essential when a pilot might consult the same map night after night over weeks of evasion, and crucially, it was almost completely silent, unfolding with the whisper of a breath, rather than the telltale crinkle of paper that could betray a man in a quiet room. The cartographic firm John Bartholomew and Son printed these maps with water-based inks, producing extraordinary detail: roads, railways, rivers, village names and border crossings, on fabric the weight of a handkerchief. That is exactly what many became: scarves and neckcloths, worn casually into the briefing room and just as casually out the other side of a burning aircraft. A German guard searching a captured airman might check his boots and jacket lining, but a scarf looped at the collar barely warranted a second glance. Yet inside could lie a complete rendering of the Franco-German border, with escape corridors marked toward neutral Switzerland or Spain. The silk map was never issued alone. It formed the heart of a full evasion kit, engineered with, well, theatrical cunning. Compass needles were cleverly concealed inside standard-looking uniform buttons, magnetized steel disguised as brass. Local currency, francs, guilders and Belgian centimes, was sewn into boot heels and collar linings. MI9 even worked with the game manufacturer John Waddington Limited to hide real maps and currency inside Monopoly sets sent to Allied POW camps, each set marked with a subtle red dot on the free parking space, invisible unless you already knew to look. Between 1939 and 1945, more than 50,000 Allied airmen went down over occupied Europe. With tools like these, thousands evaded capture and found their way home through underground networks like the Comet Line and the Dutch Paris route. The Silk map was the first critical link in that chain, the thing that got a man moving in the right direction before anyone else could help him. What endures for us today is the philosophy behind it. Preparation before the emergency is the only preparation that counts. You cannot improvise a map in the moment you need it. These pilots carried survival systems stitched into their clothing before a single shot was fired, And that quiet, disciplined readiness is the beating heart of Fieldcraft in any era. Subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles and share this episode with anyone who values history, self-reliance, and the timeless art of survival.